Pearl Harbor wasn't a complete surprise. Parts of Washington knew Japan was preparing for war. That's not speculation, that's documented. 2,403 Americans died on December 7, 1941, 1,177 of them on a single ship. 8 battleships damaged or sunk, 188 aircraft destroyed in just 75 minutes. And yet, in the weeks before the attack, American intelligence intercepted thousands of Japanese diplomatic messages. So how does a bolt from the blue happen when you're already reading your enemy's mail? You've been told this was a sudden, unprovoked strike that caught the United States completely off guard. A sleepy Sunday morning, a peaceful harbor, then chaos. But the truth is darker, more complicated, and far more disturbing. Because the United States had broken Japan's high-level diplomatic cipher, a system known as Purple. The decrypted messages were called magic, and by late 1941, Washington was reading sensitive communications between Tokyo and its embassies. Officials knew relations were collapsing. They knew war was imminent. They knew negotiations were failing. The real question is this: did they know where the first blow would fall? By the end of this story, you'll understand 3 things. What intelligence Washington actually had before December 7th, what commanders in Hawaii were never shown, and why, for decades, key evidence remained classified while 2 men carried the blame. This isn't about fantasy, it's about documents, testimony, diaries, declassified intercepts, and the human cost of decisions made at the highest levels of power. To understand what happened, you have to go back before the bombs fell. In 1937, Japan invades China. The war is brutal. Cities burn. Civilian casualties mount into the hundreds of thousands. The United States watches with growing alarm. By 1940, Japan joins Germany and Italy in the Tripartite Pact. The world is splitting into armed camps.
Meanwhile, America is officially neutral. Public opinion is deeply isolationist. The America First Committee counts more than 800,000 members. Polls in 1940 show most Americans oppose entering another European war. President Franklin D. Roosevelt sees the danger differently. He supports Britain. He pushes Lend-Lease. But he cannot openly drag the country into war without public support. Then comes July 1941. The United States freezes Japanese assets. It cuts off oil exports. Japan imports roughly 80% of its oil from America. Without that fuel, its military machine grinds to a halt. Tokyo faces a choice: retreat from China or strike south for resources in Southeast Asia. Negotiations continue through the fall of 1941. Diplomats talk peace in Washington, but behind the scenes, the Japanese combined fleet prepares for war. On November 26, 1941, 6 aircraft carriers sail from the Kuril Islands under radio silence. Their destination, the waters north of Hawaii. Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto knows the risk. He reportedly warns that Japan can run wild for 6 months. After that, he cannot guarantee victory. While carriers slice through the Pacific, American cryptanalysts in Washington and Hawaii continue reading Japanese diplomatic traffic. On November 27th, a war warning is sent to commanders in the Pacific. It states that hostilities are possible at any moment, but it emphasizes the Philippines, Thailand, Malaya. Hawaii is not singled out as the primary target. In Honolulu, Admiral Husband E. Kimmel commands the Pacific Fleet. General Walter Short oversees the Army's defenses. They have radar, they have aircraft, they have ships, but they do not have full access to magic intercepts. Those decrypts are tightly controlled in Washington. Only a small circle sees them. Secretary of War Henry Stimson writes in his diary on November 25th about discussions in the Oval Office. He records a chilling line: "How should the United States maneuver them into firing the first shot?" That phrase will echo for decades. Does it prove foreknowledge of Pearl Harbor? No. But it proves something else. Washington expected war, and it wanted Japan to be seen as the aggressor. On the morning of December 7, 1941, radar operators at Opana Point detect a large incoming formation at 7:02 a.m. The signal is reported. The officer on duty assumes it's a flight of American B-17 bombers arriving from the mainland. No alarm is sounded. At 7:48 a.m., the first wave of Japanese aircraft begins its attack. Torpedoes slice into the water, dive bombers scream downward, anti-aircraft guns roar to life. The battleship USS Arizona is struck at 8:06 a.m. A bomb penetrates near the forward magazine. Seconds later, a catastrophic explosion tears the ship apart. 1,177 men die in an instant. Steel bends like paper, flames shoot hundreds of feet into the air, burning oil spreads across the harbor. It isn't a battle, it's a slaughter. USS Oklahoma capsizes after multiple torpedo hits. 429 sailors are killed. Some are trapped inside the hull. Survivors later describe hearing tapping from within for days. Think about that. Men alive, in darkness, slowly suffocating. The attack continues in 2 waves. Airfields are strafed. Aircraft lined up wingtip to wingtip are destroyed. Within 75 minutes, the damage is done. Japan loses 29 aircraft and 5 midget submarines. The United States loses thousands of lives. But something crucial is missing from the harbor that morning. The American aircraft carriers. Enterprise, Lexington, and Saratoga are not in port. They are at sea on separate missions. Conspiracy theories seize on this detail. Did Washington deliberately move the carriers? Was the fleet left as bait?
Evidence shows the carriers were on routine assignments. Their absence was coincidence, not design. But coincidence feeds suspicion. In the immediate aftermath, Hawaii is placed under martial law. Panic spreads. Rumors of invasion swirl. Within weeks, the Roberts Commission is formed to investigate. It concludes that Admiral Kimmel and General Short were guilty of dereliction of duty. They are relieved of command. 2 careers destroyed. But the magic intercepts remain secret. Even during the hearings, full access is restricted. Kimmel later states he was never shown critical intelligence that might have altered his defensive posture. General Short argues he was focused on sabotage, not air attack, because Washington's warnings emphasized internal threats. Were they negligent, or were they convenient scapegoats? Over the next several years, multiple investigations occur. The Navy Court of Inquiry in 1944 suggests Washington withheld important information. The Army Board reaches similar conclusions. But the country is at war. Unity matters more than blame. President Roosevelt addresses Congress on December 8th, a date which will live in infamy. The speech is electrifying. The Senate votes 82-0 for war. Public opposition collapses overnight. Isolationism dies at Pearl Harbor. The narrative is simple. We were attacked without warning. We must fight. And for decades, that narrative holds. The existence of magic remains classified until the 1970s. The broader public has no idea that American codebreakers were reading high-level Japanese messages before the attack. When those documents are finally released, historians dive in. What they find is not a smoking gun proving deliberate sacrifice, but it's not total innocence either. The intercepts reveal that Washington knew Japan would likely break off negotiations. They knew war was imminent. They knew embassies were instructed to destroy codes and documents. On December 6, 1941, a 14-part Japanese message rejecting U.S. proposals is decrypted in Washington. The final part arrives on the morning of December 7th. It instructs the Japanese ambassador to deliver it at 1 p.m. Washington time. That's 7:30 a.m. in Hawaii. The timing is suspicious. Officials realize this likely signals imminent hostilities. General George Marshall attempts to send a warning to Hawaii. The message is delayed by communication issues. It arrives after the attack begins. Minutes matter, and those minutes are lost. So what really happened? Evidence shows a catastrophic intelligence failure. Information existed, but it was fragmented, compartmentalized, poorly communicated. Washington knew war was coming, it did not know the exact target. Hawaii commanders knew tensions were high, they did not know the full picture. In 1995, the National Security Agency releases additional magic summaries. In 1999, the U.S. Senate passes a resolution recommending that Kimmel and Short be advanced on the retired list, acknowledging they were denied critical intelligence. The resolution stops short of full exoneration, but it signals doubt about the original blame. So were Americans deliberately left to die to rally public support? There is no conclusive evidence of a conscious decision to sacrifice Pearl Harbor. But there is overwhelming evidence of withheld intelligence, bureaucratic rivalry, and a failure to connect the dots. That failure cost 2,403 lives. The truth is not a simple conspiracy. It's more disturbing than that. It's a story of power protecting itself, of classified information shielding reputations, of narratives crafted in crisis and maintained for unity. You were told Pearl Harbor was a complete surprise. It wasn't. You were told the men in Hawaii failed alone. They didn't. You were told America had no warning. It had warning, just not clarity. History prefers clean stories, heroes and villains, innocence and aggression. Reality is messier. In the months before December 7, Washington saw the storm clouds gathering. It chose not to shout from the rooftops. It chose caution, secrecy, control. And when disaster struck, it chose to protect the image of centralized competence. Because admitting systemic failure during wartime is dangerous. Admitting intelligence breakdown at the highest level shakes public trust. So two commanders carried the burden, and the broader story remained buried in classified files for decades. This doesn't make Pearl Harbor less tragic, it makes it more tragic, because the men on those ships were not just victims of Japanese aggression, they were victims of human error, of bureaucratic silos, of political calculation. That's the disturbing part. Not that America wanted its fleet destroyed, but that it underestimated the enemy, mismanaged intelligence, and then simplified the story for public consumption. 2,403 names are etched into memorials. 1,177 still rest inside the USS Arizona. Their sacrifice propelled the United States into a global war that reshaped the 20th century. But the next time someone says, "We never saw it coming," remember this: interceptions existed, warnings were sent, diaries were written. The truth was complicated, and complication doesn't fit neatly into patriotic slogans. If you're shocked by what was hidden in the shadows of Pearl Harbor, you need to look deeper into the intelligence failures that shaped the rest of World War II. Hit like, subscribe, and remember, history isn't just what happened, it's what they chose to tell you.
Frigid air bit through the plane at noon on February 20th, 1944. Over Leipzig, deep inside Germany, the sky hosted 26,000 feet of open blue beneath them. Frost spreads across the curved glass up front, slow and steady. Inside, the air bites at the skin, sharp, thin, laced with a machine smell. Robert Hayes, second lieutenant, adjusts the strap of his mask without looking down. Above him, beyond the canopy, there is no blue, only a flat sheen like polished steel. Far ahead, hundreds of planes spread out across the open sky. The hum of the Boeing B-17's engines runs deep in the metal skin, constant as a heartbeat. Each of 4 Wright cyclones spins in exact timing, smooth and unbroken. Over Hayes, squadrons spread out, some high, some low, grouped tight like buildings rising into clouds. Past those, still others stretch on. A shape cuts through the cold sky on his right, leaving pale trails behind. Light jumps suddenly from metal far ahead, sharp and quick. Not a group flying together, not even a formation of any kind. A fleet moves as one, not just a group, but something more, connected by purpose, driven by motion. Beneath the scattered cloud cover, Leipzig spreads out, smoke rising from factories, rails tangled like wire, machines churning parts for weapons. Not a guess where to strike. Aim lands right on those workshops, wipe out what builds their strength. Fog curls around the concrete bunker where Lieutenant Carl Brenner stands, glass raised toward the sky, eyes tracing shapes in the cloud cover. Then it hits him, that old weight returning like a forgotten debt. A stillness creeps into his chest, one he thought long buried beneath routine and orders. The hum of distant engines grows louder, yet he does not move. Instead, memory flickers, not sharp but soft at the edges like worn film. His fingers tighten slightly on the metal casing. Somewhere beyond the wire, boots crunch gravel, voices low and steady. But here, breath hangs suspended. Not fear exactly, something quieter, older. He blinks once. The lenses fog again. Doubt. Faint signals blinked across screens just after sunrise. Machines seemed broken. Everyone assumed faults. Shapes crowded the display, spread out, piled up in layers. Around 9:30, someone on a roof saw them move through the sky. One worker whispered the word slowly. Impossible, he said under his breath. He puts the binoculars down, hand steady. Not one wave after another. This time it's everything coming together. Planes stacked high, then higher, their patterns weaving tight nets of gunfire below. Sunlight bounces hard off silver wings, making the air shimmer like moving water. Fighting them once already, he knows the bombers well. Fire lit up the sky as planes dropped from formation in 1943. Breaking ranks was risky, yet sometimes necessary to dodge enemy fighters. Instead of holding tight, crews scattered, then regrouped fast.
This feels unfamiliar, yet here it stands, apart. Fighters move around the bombers now, swift as hunting falcons on a long chase. These are escorts built for distance. Smooth shapes cut air. Speed stays high. They wait without rushing. The North American P-51 Mustang. That shape stands out clear to Brenner right away. Not long ago, those German flyers started whispering during prep talks. Extra fuel containers let them stick close behind enemy planes, straight into Berlin, then home again. Crossing the frontier used to stop their chase. Not now. The Americans have learned. Up ahead, Hayes turns his head toward the left. Over there, a B-17 flying close by shifts just a bit off position, then pulls back into place. From the speaker comes a burst of static. Flak expected in 3 minutes. The word travels through the crew like static. Flak. Fires rise near Leipzig, where gun crews stand ready. Those 88mm barrels can strike high, hit hard. Soon, smoke puffs bloom above, metal slicing open planes, shredding bodies packed tight inside. Skies there won't stay empty for long. Yet prior to that initial blast, another truth stands out. Fewer runways than aircraft clutter the tarmac. Bombers outnumber hangars by a wide margin. Skyward metal piles up where ground space ends. Following Hayes' group, a second wave appears. Then a third slips into formation. Combat wings spread like threads pulled westward over the North Sea, trailing toward England's coast. What unfolds fits within Big Week, U.S. strategists name it, targeting factories that build German fighters. Wave after wave of heavy bombers lift off from fields tucked across Britain, each launch timed down to the minute. Fueled by round-the-clock shifts, U.S. factories keep humming without pause. Machines never sleep, pushing output beyond normal limits. Night turns into morning while production lines stay hot. This pace isn't accidental. It's built on constant motion. Workers rotate in cycles matching the rhythm of relentless demand. Output climbs because downtime gets erased. Speed becomes standard when every hour counts.
Faster than anyone imagined back then, planes slide down the line now in Seattle. Out of sight from wartime limits, San Diego hums with machines shaping metal day after day. Machines roar where quiet once ruled. Fort Worth adds its rhythm, steady, unyielding, as each new bomber takes form under bright lights. Floating up here, you see no trace of factories humming below. Instead, sheets of steel stretch beyond sight. Cold, unbroken plains go on forever. Beneath us, sudden flares open up, petals of smoke unfurling where metal meets sky. A chill rides the air as shapes burst without sound, only color staining the ground. A shudder runs through the plane when blasts ripple close by. Holding tight to the controls, Hayes feels every bump. Little shards rattle the outer shell like sudden rain. Up front, the bombardier breathes deep, gaze locked on the targeting device ahead. Steady, steady. Folks out in the open fields of Germany tilt their heads skyward. Moments pass as eyes follow something distant above tree lines. A quiet hush settles where chatter once hummed. Roofs and fences frame silhouettes standing still. Above them, air shifts without sound. A low hum arrives before anything else. piles of noise stacking up until it pushes against the skin. Glass trembles in its frame. Animals cry out, unsettled. People inside the chapel freeze, words caught halfway. After that comes sight. Now it's just a ceiling of gray, not blue, never again. A fleet of planes sits inside, parked wingtip to wingtip. Inside rests a collection of aircraft, lined up without space between them. 50 miles north, silence breaks as fighter planes wake. Engines growl at dawn's edge. Men dash across gravel toward waiting aircraft. Words come fast, no time to spare. Stop the bombers before they reach the steel mills. Scatter their lines. Hit hard and climb high. Yet while they rise, pushing upward through thin air toward that gleaming bulk, a quiet understanding settles. Some have already counted the cost. When a single German fighter takes to the skies, swarms of bombers already fill the air above. Each time one bomber falls, a new one rises to fill the sky. Brenner lifts the binoculars again. Inside the glass, explosions bloom around the lead group of planes. A B-17 coughs out smoke, yet holds its place. Formation stays tight. Nobody veers off. The line does not bend. One after another, they show up without stopping.
It hits him now, a cold truth never seen before. This isn't some drill built to check how strong the walls are. This is a demonstration. A trail of vapor cuts through blue, shaped by aircraft. Foil letters hang high above, strung on windless air. Factories matter more than flyers when engines need building. Breaking above the clouds at 24,000 feet, the initial German fighter planes emerge. While visibility clears, their engines cut through thin air. Above them, silence. Below, a blanket of white rolls on. These aircraft arrive ahead of any warning. Their presence marks a shift no one saw coming. Upward climbs the Messerschmitt Bf-109, driven hard by Oberfeldwebel Dieter Hahn, its engine roaring under peak load. Not a single plane before him now. Instead, ranks upon ranks fill the air. Glinting in the light, countless bomber wings press forward, locked into tight formations known as combat boxes. Gun positions align across each formation, so firepower blends without gaps. He swallows. There are too many. Through the radio crackle, sharp words toss out positions. From behind, strike hard. Target the front ranks instead. Shatter their line ahead of the bombing pass. Upward he pulls, throttle wide, chasing height for the edge above. Higher still rolls the climb, slanting into sky cover. Far up where the bombers fly, slender figures start to break off. The escorts. Downward stins the P-51, upside down, piloted by Captain William Red Mallory. Its Merlin engine howls during the plummet, sharp, sudden, fierce. Since flying over the Dutch shoreline, he's held his breath for this chance. Through 1943, mission after mission pushed bombers far inside Germany, no fighters riding shotgun the whole way. Crews vanished at terrifying rates. Schweinfurt burned into history, Regensburg too. Smoke and fire wrote those names down hard. Not anymore. A speck of movement catches Mallory's eye, German fighters angling up at the bombers below. Into the radio he speaks, voice steady. Blue flight, tally-ho. Hurtling down, the Mustangs tear through open sky. Bright lines rip sideways where the air hardly slows them. Too slow, Hahn catches sight of flickers eyed. Past his cockpit, a fighter shrieks by. Near enough that the pilot's eyewear comes clear into view. Fragments rip through the wing of his neighbor's plane. Down goes the enemy jet, spinning hard, choked with smoke before disappearing under cloud cover.
Up goes Hahn's control rod, sharp tilt, spitting away in tight defense. Around him, blue shatters into motion and noise. Ahead of their line, B-17s fly locked in tight rows. When German planes dive toward them, machine guns open up together. A lone attacker rushes forward, firing wildly. Metal tears across the front of the lead bomber just before return shots tear through the air. Shattered pieces spiral down where the enemy plane had been. A shudder runs through the plane before Hayes spots any damage. Metal groans under sudden strikes, thin walls giving way. Over the speaker comes the tail gunner's voice, sharp and loud. "Bandits at 6 o'clock, 2 of 'em." Firing erupts from the back turrets. Brass shells tumble loose, scattering underfoot. Without thinking, the group pulls tighter, planes edging nearer till wings almost graze. Above, dark bursts bloom where they fly, 88mm rounds tearing open with cold accuracy. Not far from the left wing of a nearby B-17, a blast splits the air. That plane jerks sideways, motors sputtering. From its rear, smoke stretches into the sky. Yet gravity holds it steady. Steady hands on the controls. As the group shifts, the damaged bomber slips inside their shield of gunfire. Footsteps crunch nearby as Carl Brenner stands still, eyes fixed on incoming updates. 30 aircraft down, 40, 50. Yet peace eludes him despite the figures, because radar still shows more incoming. Flood of troops keeps moving across the river, still thick, maybe even heavier now. Units from separate U.S. posts draw together, merging into one push. Strength builds as they link up. A low hum hangs in the air when he opens the door. Not a single sound now, but many folded into one, so thick it rattles his bones without touch. Still, after shrapnel rips into tight groups of planes, the openings vanish in a breath, almost as if your fist meets nothing but liquid.
Floating over Leipzig, the bombardiers start their last approach. Bomb bay doors open. Flying low, cold wind blasts into Hayes' plan when the heavy doors under the body drop open. The aircraft smooths out now. It quits dodging. In these last moments, a steady path is required, leaving them exposed. Fires from German flak guns merge into a single roar. Blackness spills across the heavens. A sudden strike tears into a B-24 flying nearby. At the wing's base, the consolidated bomber rips wide open. Fire bursts through the frame. Down it turns, slow like a falling leaf, then comes undone midair. Floating down, a parachute opens under it. Forward he stares, Hayes, though everything pulls at him to look away. There, just there, the square shapes of rooftops, train tracks snaking close by, chimneys pouring out their thick breath above the place where planes are made. Right into that spot the sight's mark drifts, steady now, held tight within the glass. Bombs away. A shudder runs through the plane as heavy payloads drop away. All at once, across the skyline, bomb doors yawn open. First a few, then wave after that. Sunlight catches on metal tumbling down, just for an instant before mist swallows everything. Footsteps fade when the ground splits open. Smoke climbs high above Leipzig's factories. Across the roofs, shock follows blast. Halls fold into themselves. Twisted rails lie where trains once ran. Below, blasts flash just as Han struggles to survive the attacking Mustangs. Now it's clear how big the attack really was. The size can't be ignored anymore. This isn't about making things harder. A move like this aims elsewhere. Mathematics brings destruction. What seems pure turns violent. Numbers do not forgive. Precision carves ruin. Calculation ends worlds. Flying upward in tight circles, Mallory rides the Mustang skyward, eyes sweeping for enemy planes. Fewer show up this time. Out of gas and beat down, the German pilots break off, chased hard and running empty. Westward, the bomber stream catches his eye as he turns.
Far off, beyond the smoke of fallen bombs, new shapes rise up slowly. Behind them, others follow without sound. The sky holds its breath while shadows stretch across the ground. Not one breaks away. Each moves like the last, steady through dust. With a quiet breath, Brenner eases the headset from his ears inside the command post. The evidence backs this up. That Tuesday saw planes being built caught in strikes from several places at once. It happened beyond Leipzig. More than a single spot got hit. Everywhere. Now it makes sense to him, the meaning behind those never-ending patterns. Not bravery, not recklessness, capacity. A single dawn could erase many planes, yet by sunrise another wave already rose. The wreckage still smoked. Fresh crews loaded new machines just the same. From broken hangars came replacements, quiet, steady, without delay. Even after loss piled high, engines fired again before silence settled. Now the clouds break, the bombers angling back toward England. Silence doesn't return, only the echo stays, hanging well past their departure. Out of the thinning hum, a sound creeps through. German officers catch it, worse than any blast. They hear inevitability. March 6, 1944, Berlin. High up near the sky's edge, past 27,000 feet, a shiver runs through the atmosphere above the city once called capital of the Third Reich. This moment, Berlin takes center stage, not factories in Leipzig, but the capital pulsing with power under Nazi rule. Closer now, waves of bombers stretch beyond memory, larger than any sky assault witnessed until today. Size alone shifts the weight of what's unfolding overhead. Fear used to cut deep inside Lieutenant Hayes, back when he first climbed into the cockpit of his B-17. Now it dulls like an old blade left too long in the rain. Mission after mission stacks up without pause. Each one adds weight instead of terror. The count keeps rising. Out there, rows of bombers move forward in tight formation, one after another. Overhead, fighter planes glide slowly, watching, waiting like hunters above a field.
Below, Luftwaffe Command scrambles everything it has left. Up above, clouds part as Oberstleutnant Günther Rall pushes his Messerschmitt Bf-109 higher. Not long ago, he faced Soviet pilots in tight turns over open fields. Before that, dogfights with British Spitfires tested every move he knew. Time after time, he made it back. Combat stretched behind him like old tire marks on a runway. Floating over Berlin, though, isn't the clash he expected. It is a wall. Out ahead, the American bomber formation stretches across the sky like a metal river. More than 800 of the big planes show up on radar during one push, tight timing holding them together. Fighters tag along, built for distance, sticking close without backing off. Fuel dials in German fighter cockpits drop fast. Not much aviation gas left because supply keeps shrinking. Bombing raids smashed synthetic fuel sites again and again. New pilots now get only half the flight time they used to. Planes meant as spares wait around, incomplete, in shattered workshops. Still, they keep climbing. Faster than expected, the first German fighters punch past the Allied escort line. Not slowing down, they dive straight at the bombers, aiming for the nose where pilots sit, hoping speed alone will beat return fire. A fireball bursts from one B-17 as it twists through the sky above Brandenburg. Yet when one bomber falls, someone else takes that spot. A sudden burst from the side turrets cuts through empty sky. Streams of glowing rounds twist together like threads in fabric. For weeks on end, U.S. teams drilled one rhythm only. Timed shots, zones that blend, zero room for slip. The pattern holds because each man fires when he must. A sudden streak in the sky. German guns rip into Hayes' plane. Shaking runs through the front of the aircraft. Fragments of window explode inward. His bombardier shouts, wiping pieces from charts below. A sudden shift brings the German plane into the linked gunfire of 3 bomber aircraft. Smoke carries it away. South of Berlin, the P-47 leans gently down, guided by Major Robert Johnson. Though bulkier than the Mustang, it can take heavy hits without failing. His eyes move across the sky, searching for any lagging planes. 2 enemy fighters come into view, creeping up on a wounded B-24. Toughness matters now more than speed. Forward moves Johnson. All 8.5s fire at once. A German plane twists into a spiral dive, while a second veers off sharply. The sky cracks open behind them. Yet, with each wind piling up, a quiet shift hold. A change hums beneath the surface. Fighting back, Germany holds strong, though fewer now stand. Still, each voice carries weight where silence once ruled. Down below, smoke climbs into the sky where Berlin's plane factories once stood. The rail yards are on fire now. Buildings that stored supplies crumble like old bricks. Johnson looks out as their planes shift course, heading back across the channel. Flame trails mark spots where explosions tore through minutes before. That meeting stuck with him. Weeks had passed since they first spoke about it. American production statistics. In 1940, U.S. factories built just under 6,000 planes for war use. 50 years before, just a handful had been recorded. Now close to 100,000 filled the streets by 1944. Fueled by steady hands, factories hum through night and day across Detroit, Seattle, California. Covered in durable fabric, women fasten metal panels with precision tools. Moving steadily ahead, planes advance down production paths much like cars on a line. What took long stretches of time now finishes in just a few short hours. Fuel lines sputter out, yet filming continues through blackout hours. Shells rattle nearby, still they move cameras across broken streets. Rations shrink week by week, but scripts get finished on time. Bridges fail one by one, still equipment rolls forward. A shadow stretches across Carl Brenner's desk while he reads the fresh report. Evening light fades behind him, page by page. Aircraft losses today, heavy. A handful of bombers didn't make it back. Important, sure, yet far from game-changing. Few days pass before new numbers fill the gaps across U.S. communities. German replacement rate, falling. Outside he goes once more. Smoke lingers in the air above Berlin, mixed with the sharp tang of burnt fuel. People move through the roads, brushing aside rubble on paths fixed too many times to count. Back then, it was 1940. Above Europe, German planes ruled without challenge. Airspace, controlled entirely by the Luftwaffe. That year, the skies answered only to Berlin. Flying high depends on who makes the most devices.
Machines fill the air where builders push limits. The one with numbers claims what floats above. Creation counts more than talk when reaching up there. Faster every day, construction moves across American ground. Ceaseless work shapes what comes next. The following morning arrived without fanfare. Afternoon settled in quietly. Evening came around eventually. Then came another morning, following the one before it. Boldness isn't the reason, yet something deeper matters. Beneath each B-17, each consolidated B-24 Liberator, lies a factory system unharmed by raids, shielded in turn by wide seas, fed through deep reserves, pushed forward by round-the-clock production lines. In April, the raids intensify. Fire lights up artificial lube factories during May. Flying feels different now, say Germany's pilots by summer. A shift they never thought possible creeps into their daily flights. Fewer of them stand within their city's heart. That June night felt still. Brenner got word. The Allies had reached Normandy shores. The silence broke with a single radio signal. High above, the bombers meant more than just hitting production lines. They were preparation. They were erosion. Each strike came without pause, part of a machine built to wear down, a rhythm that never slipped, working only to exhaust. The report shuts under his hands, moving slow. Then stillness takes over. Years passed while Germany held tight to its faith in skill over numbers. Tactics stood out, sharp and precise. Pilots flew with unmatched discipline. Machines performed beyond expectation. Yet more mattered in the end. Something changes when there is just so much of it.
Filling the sky now comes this sight. Midway through 1944, the heart of Germany, summer held the land tight. Nowadays, nobody stops to look up. The clouds just drift by without notice. Out there, a deep growl rolls in, thick with engine noise. Almost right after, the factory alarms scream like they've got no choice. Hands let go of wrenches, hammers, whatever's held. Lights fixed on towers swing up toward the clouds. Men at anti-air guns slide rounds into place, smooth, practiced. Far from it, Karl Brenner stands calm in the operations bunker close to Mercersburg, his face giving nothing away. He looks tired. Oil sits in the crosshairs now. Summer light bounces off the silver wings of B-17s moving in tight lines, followed by B-24s holding steady formation. Ahead of them fly P-51s, slipping through the sky like shadows, while P-47s circle wide, scanning for movement. Their presence sharpens the air, quiet but ready, each plane a piece of a larger push forward. Steel beams claw at the sky where Mersersburg's Lona factory spreads wide. Pipes twist through air alongside towering crackers, fat storage domes rooted below. This place feeds the Reich, breathes into its veins. No synthetic juice means engines stall cold. Wings stay earthbound, silent on runways. Ammo trucks sit empty, roads quiet without rumble. Falling one after another, the first bombs strike in careful rows. A shudder runs up the distillation units, beams twist under sudden force. Up goes the smoke, heavy and dark, filling the air above. One tank catches fire after another, every explosion punching through walls meant to hold. The ground trembles beneath it all. Fighter groups shout updates into Brenner's ear as he stands motionless in his office. A scramble unfolds beyond the windows, engines roaring toward contact. Voices crackle through radios, patching together a picture of chaos in the sky. He hears every word, says none back. The room holds its breath while pilots dive into uncertainty. Insufficient fuel for extended pursuit. Pilots inexperienced. Escort fighters breaking through. Nowhere near the strength it once had, the Air Force keeps going. Fewer flights mean less practice time. Instead of experience, new pilots bring little more than 100 hours aloft. Those who lasted long are either worn out or gone.
Out past the flaming factory, smoke curling into dusk, Lieutenant Hayes sees bursts pop one after another beneath him. Up here, the planes stay locked in position, unshaken. It's not passion driving them, it's something colder, like gears turning midair, each run calculated down to the second. Fresh planes sit ready in England, standing by to fill gaps left by those gone today. What we're seeing now is beyond belief. Out here, American shipyards launch Liberty vessels faster than weeks can pass. Meanwhile, motor plants swap car lines for bomber engines overnight. Whole towns reshape around making things move. Without pause, steel rolls out. Aluminum follows close behind. Fuel keeps feeding the machines. Few nations stand at that level, Germany just falls short. Fog lifts by August, messages start reaching top officers. Fuel running out fast. Flying lessons on hold across certain areas. Fuel gone, armored units stuck where they stand. Outside, just past midday that September, Brenner steps from the bunker by himself. Silence hangs in the air, odd given what usually happens here. High up, thin lines from earlier bombings still fade across the sky. Memories drift to those first wins, Poland overrun fast, France giving way within a month, skies ruled by German planes. That time felt unshakable. Faster movement, better strategy, German commanders once thought that was enough to win fast. How wrong they were. Years drag on, turning battles into tests of how long people can hold out. Firmness shows up most where machines run long. That moment stuck with him, the vast rows of US planes stretching across the sky like something out of a dream. Back then, such scale felt unreal, almost wrong, as if one country shouldn't hold that much power above the clouds. Now he understands, it was never about a single raid. Something needed showing.
Few realize how fast the numbers rebuild overnight. One loss opens space for many more to rise up later. Each downed plane makes room for unseen replacements waiting just out of view. Strength grows quietly after every reported fall. Factories kept running nonstop, showing oceans and miles were no barrier. Distance failed to slow them down. Production marched on regardless of separation by sea. Even far apart, output stayed steady. Oceans between places did nothing to halt the work. Never pausing became their quiet strength. Moving goods across water proved possible without delay. Only when U.S. factories shook off hesitation did their output surge beyond reach of rivals. Fall brings a grim confirmation from Germany's spies. Planes roll off assembly lines faster than ever, yet empty tanks keep them parked. Grounded despite rising output, engines silent where runways begin. Flying machines arrive, though time has passed. It's the tracks they follow. Rail reeds pull them in. For refineries, hidden beneath camouflage nets, assembly plants sit obscured from view. When the sun is high, they arrive, shielded by squadrons that fly close around them. Winter arrives in 1944. By then, the Luftwaffe has lost its grip. It cannot stand in their way anymore. A push fights to outlast each one. It resists while they fade away. Above him, on a cold day in December, planes pass through the air one more time. Their trails cut long lines over the icy heavens, pale marks against a dull sky. Brenner stands still, watching hundreds move together high above. His hands ease the binoculars down, inch by inch. Last decade, Berlin pushed troops across shifting fronts. Then came trench lines that locked everything in place. Machine by machine, it's falling behind. Slowly but surely, one after another gives way. Not all at once, just enough to shift the balance. Each loss adds up without fanfare. Victory slips further away each day. Now it's not fear they feel when the bombers fill the sky, but a quiet kind of weight settling in their bones. Recognition. It's clear now, the battle built on output, the clash of assembly lines, oil, machines, was settled long before the guns fell silent. After the bombers fade into quiet, something else lingers instead of shock. It is inevitability.